I hope you had ample time to get a good refreshment and be ready for the excitement. We always hear about battles, but nothing like a battle of the brains. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 contestants who will be battling it out there for the National Pitching Research Competition. Of course, research, academics, is not what the world perceives as the most interesting and exciting arena. However, the esteemed panel we have with us today and the contestants are out there to prove it wrong and to show that academics, research too, can be exciting and enthralling, just like any other field. It is now my honor to introduce a very special individual, somebody who has been a driving force behind PIM being fortunate to host this very special and momentous occasion of the pitching research competition, who is none other than Professor Vasantha Perera. Professor Vasantha is a professor with a PhD in finance, together with more than 25 years of teaching experience in Sri Lanka and 3 years of teaching experience in Australia. Currently working as a professor under the sabbatical leave at the Department of Management and Finance at the Faculty of Management, Social Sciences and Humanities. He's also attached with the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University in Sri Lanka. He was a professor in finance and the chairman of the Curriculum Review and Development Committee, the CDRC, of the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura. Further, he was the university coordinator of international collaboration with Monash University in Australia and the coordinator of the MSc in Applied Finance graduate program at the Faculty of Graduate Studies at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura, and he has published a plethora of research papers in ranked and index journals. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from Professor Vasantha Perera.
Thank you, Tarandu, introducing about myself, and good morning to everybody. Director of Postgraduate Institute of Management, Dr. Seneka Kalumgamage, inventor of the pitching research concept, and the founder and the president of Inspired Global Network, Professor Robert Puff, member of the International Evaluation Panel of National Pitching Research Competition, country coordinator of the Inspired Global Pitching Research Competition, conference chairs, Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri and Dr. Nilakshi Galahidiawa, professors, academic and non-academic members of the university, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. As the country coordinator, it is my great pleasure to deliver the introduction speech at the grand finale of the National Pitching Research Competition conducted for the first time in Sri Lanka by the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jayawardenepura, as the main event of its annual research conference called PIMARC. The National Pitching Research Competition is the Sri Lankan counterpart to the Inspired Global Pitching Research Competition, which will be held in Australia next year. This kind of national level competitions are scheduled to be held over 20 countries in 100 universities in the world. As Professor Robert mentioned, his keynote speech, the winners of these national competitions will get the opportunity to participate. The Global Pitching Research Competition will be held in Australia. Pitching research is a research planning framework which was developed by Professor Robert Puff, who is with us today. It's a great privilege for us. This framework challenges novice researchers to effectively communicate their research idea to the academic field expert. Through this competition, we use this framework to assess the research communication skill of the higher degree research students, called HDR, students in the field of management in the Sri Lankan national universities. The main aim of organizing National Pitching Research Competition is to assist the HDR students in Sri Lankan University to produce well-rounded, effective, and achievable research project by providing a simple mechanism for communicating a new research idea and starting a conversation with potential research mentor. Further, We want to create a solid national and international research platform for HDR students in Sri Lanka. The National Pitching Research Competition was organized according to the global norms and standards developed by the Inspired International Research Network to enhance the quality of the local competition. The information session for the NPRC 2021 was held on 2nd October 2021, and more than 50 HDR students from different Sri Lankan national universities successfully registered for this event. The inventor of pitching research framework, Professor Robert Puff, myself as a country coordinator of Inspired Global Pitching Research Competition, the foundation ambassador of the Inspired Global Research Network, Professor Atula Manavaduge, and the vice presidents of Inspired Global Pitching Research Competition, Dr. Imtiaz Malik, all participated in the information session as a resource team. The deadline for the submission to the National Pitching Research Competition 2021 was 1st of November 2021. So we didn't have much time. We worked with the timeline given by the PIMARC. Finally, we selected 6 pitchers for the grand final of the competition, representing different national universities in Sri Lanka. So though we get less number of pitchers, but finally we would be able to select a very good pitch which has a different diversification in terms of topics, in terms of university, and they have different capabilities of presentation. I'm pretty sure that the international judge panel will take some kind of difficulties when they are going to select the finalists. The finalists were selected based on the quality of their written pitches by an eminent panel of foreign and local reviewers, considering the 5 golden evaluation rules. That is for the first round. And we have to thank for all the reviewers who did a great job, because during very short period, they review pitches and send us. So without having their help, it's very, very difficult to conduct this kind of forum. The winners of the Sri Lankan National Pitching Research Grand Finales determined on the combined quality of both written and oral pitches by the panel of international judges. Here I should convey my thanks. Professor Robert is as a chair of the panel, and Dr. Imtiaz Malik is from the University of Queensland, and Professor Adrian Gibbs from the Bond University. I think last couple of days they worked with this competition. Particularly, they worked towards the grand finale. They did a lot of homework and came to today. The winners of National Pitching Research Competition in Sri Lanka will progress to the semi-final round of the international or global pitching research competition, which lead to the international pitching grand final, which will be held, as I mentioned, in Australia. In addition to these awards, today we are planning to offer another award. This is called the audience. We are giving a chance to the audience to select their favorite pitch through online poll. I don't know whether we have a sufficient number of online audience. If you have a sufficient number of, we can offer this one, and later on Tarindu will explain that. So this award we call People's Choice Award, and take this opportunity as an I take this opportunity to wish the finalists of the National Pitching Research Competition. I know that they are a little bit excited to present their work, but they are very outstanding, as I mentioned earlier, who are going to present their pitches in front of the international panel. Before winding up my speech, as a country coordinator, I especially thank Foundation Ambassador of the Inspired Global Research Network in Sri Lanka, Professor Atula Manavaduge. So without having his help, I don't think it's very, very difficult for us to come into this kind of session. So both of us did a voluntary job, and we spent a lot of time for this event, for the success. And finally, I should thank to the Postgraduate Institute of Management, particularly for sponsoring this event. As we know, without sponsoring this event by the Postgraduate Institute of Management, it's very difficult to conduct this kind of a valuable event. Especially, I must thank the current Director of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, Dr. Kalum Damage, and the conference chair, Dr. Nilakshi Galahitiava, for their great contribution to make this event success. I'm not going to talk much on that. Hope you enjoy with this novel event. This is first time that we are conducting this kind of event. That's why it's a novel event. And thank you very much. Have a great day, all of you, and enjoy with their presentation. Okay, over to you, Tharidu.
Thank you very much, Professor Vasanta Perera, for those very encouraging words, and also for explaining the journey of this National Pitching Research Competition so far and what lies ahead. Indeed, it's an exciting moment for PIM to be the host for this event today in its annual research conference. And thank you to you for all the support given over the last few weeks. Multiple and numerous conference calls, Zoom calls, despite your busy schedule, with both you and Professor Atul as well, indeed has led the build up to this very esteemed occasion today. Now, I take great privilege in also introducing the panel of judges for today's grand finale. We have Professor Robert Pfaff from the Bond University of Australia as the chair among the panel of judges. We also have Dr. Itisha Malik from the University of Queensland, Australia, and Professor Adrian Gepp from the Bond University of Australia. Once again, to reiterate the rules for the benefit of the participants, contestants of today's National Pitching Research Competition. Well, the winners of the Sri Lankan National Pitching Research Competition Grand Final is determined on the combined quality of both written and oral pitches by a panel of international judges whom I announced a short while back. And the time given for each pitch, ladies and gentlemen, would be a maximum of 10 minutes. You would be given a reminder bell at 8 minutes and then the concluding bell at 10 minutes. Should your research idea, the research pitch exceed 10 minutes, there is a possibility of marks being deducted. And when you are pitching your research idea, you are expected to assume that you are presenting it to an audience of field experts. In other words, that the audience is an expert in this field. Once again, I do reiterate on the time limit of 10 minutes. Your first reminder bell will be at 8 minutes, and the second reminder bell will be, the final bell will be at 10 minutes. I would like to request for my team to just ring the bell once, just so that all the contestants are aware. There you are. We hear it loud and clear. The esteemed panel of judges, I believe we are ready to commence. Professor Robert Pfaff, yes, I see the nod, and we shall proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, let the finals of the National Pitching Research Competition 2021 commence. As the first presenter, we have with us Ms. Chani Wasana Imbulgoda from the Postgraduate Institute of Management on the project title, Symbolic Compliance Towards Quality Assurance System in Higher Education, a Moral Outlook. Symbolic Compliance Towards Quality Assurance System in Higher Education, a Moral Outlook, Ms. Chani Wasana Imbulgoda.
Quality reviewers are coming. Alarm given by the Quality Assurance Center. All files are taken out. Documents are prepared. Staff and students are coached how to respond to reviewers. University gets a new look. But once the review is over, this enthusiasm and documents disappear. Perhaps until the next review. Familiar experience, isn't it? Reforms are imperative for development and improvement. But millions of funds are wasted on reforms because of symbolic compliance towards reforms. Quality assurance reform in higher education is facing the same destiny. Quality assurance reform was introduced to the higher education sector to make university operations more efficient and improve the quality of university products. Universities are treated as towers of wisdom. They have high moral obligation towards the society. Quality assurance is a morally worthy cause. Then why? Why universities orchestrate symbolic compliance towards quality assurance system? Bromley and Powell, with their paper From Smoke and Mirrors to Walk in the Talk, brings a new outlook to the symbolic compliance behavior towards reforms. Addressing a gap in the literature, they introduces two forms. One is symbolic adoption, that is policy practice decoupling, and other is symbolic implementation, that is means in decoupling. I observe both forms of this symbolic compliance behavior in universities towards quality assurance reform. This paper broadens my outlook on symbolic compliance behavior. Symbolic compliance is considered a disruptive work by the institutional work theory. Dava and Lawrence, based on the institutional work theory introduced by Lawrence and Sudabi, suggest that actors disrupt institutions grounded on their emotions and cognition. This supports my idea of looking at the actor's moral perspective. The third paper introduces a model that describes moral capacities of institutional actors and how it influenced their behavior. These three papers shed light on my path when I started my research. Therefore, I consider these as three key papers of my study. What motivated me to do this research? It is the surprising behavior of university actors before the review, during the review, and after the review. This is not a tiny, isolated problem that I experience only. This problem of symbolic compliance spread across the higher education sector worldwide. Out of 113 research papers I reviewed, 60%, more than 60% either referred to or discussed symbolic compliance as an impediment to achieve quality assurance objectives. Not only in the higher education sector, the other sectors as well. Say it ISO certification or environmental standards or any other public sector reform faces this problem. Symbolic compliance is not an entirely immoral act. Neither it is moral. This stands in between. It is an amoral act. According to Oliver, there are many ways of responding to organizational pressures. Then why? Why university actors, having high moral obligation, choose symbolic compliance as their preferred mode of response? This is a puzzle. Empirical literature recognizes the importance of studying symbolic compliance behavior, but hardly any literature is available that discusses actors' morality along with symbolic compliance. Since I could not find a plausible explanation from the empirical literature, I consulted theories. Neo-institutional theory suggests that organizations ceremonially adopt new structures to gain legitimacy, but decouple structure from practices. This is not sufficient to explain my research problem. Institutional work theory brings actors to the center. They assume actors disrupt institutionalization of new structures when these structures challenges their ideologies and existing norms of the institution. They further say actors disassociate morality from their behavior when engaged in disruptive work. Can it happen? Can it happen in the context of university actors who are intellectuals, who are having moral obligation? Hannah and others introducing theoretical framework of moral maturation and moral cognition capacity gives an answer. They give an answer saying that moral capacities of institutional actors influence how they decide and act when they encounter with moral dilemmas at workplace. Having described the problem theoretically, I want to test whether this theoretical explanation sufficiently explains the empirical reality. Researchers use philosophies. There are many other philosophies like positivism, interpretivism, but I underpin my study on critical realism philosophy. According to critical realism philosophy, reality is multiple and stratified into layers. What we see as the performance gap is only the tip of the iceberg. To find the cause behind this performance gap, We have to dig deep into the iceberg. At the actual level, symbolic compliance is located, the problem that creates the performance gap. But as a critical realist, I cannot satisfy myself at this point. I want to find root causes. According to critical realism, at the deep end of the iceberg, they call it field level, causal structures and generative mechanisms are activated, producing the problem. Guided with the critical realism philosophy, I will choose multi-method qualitative as my methodological choice. I will go for case study because this is a complex and context-bound problem, and I want to understand the reality without manipulating the behavior of the actors. There are 14 state universities in Sri Lanka that governs under the same quality assurance principles. Due to the enormity of this case and need of the descriptions, I will select one university as single case, but to add to the rigor of the research, I will select 4 faculties of different disciplines. Then my research strategy is single embedded case. As I said in my methodological choice, the primary mode of data collection is semi-structured in-depth interviews. I will be collecting data from co-actors and peripheral actors. Co-actors, those who are responsible formally and members of quality assurance committees in the university. Peripheral actors do not have a formal responsibility, but together I can expose the reality. Sample size is 40. I will do observations, participant observations, and document reviews as well. As you can see in my slide, the unit of analysis is individual because I'm looking at moral perspectives of the actors. Time horizon is cross-sectional because I'm going to conduct this study while quality assurance review is ongoing. I will use thematic analysis introduced by Brown and Clark. I will go for 6-step analysis, and to add to the rigor of the data analysis, I will use retroduction and retrodiction principles introduced by critical realism philosophy. That is, you move back and forth with theoretical data during the retroduction process, and retrodiction process, you do cross-case analysis to add to the rigor of the research. The novelty I'm bringing with this research is explanation of symbolic compliance towards policies or reforms from actors' moral perspectives. So what? What is the need of doing this research? We have examples with our inauguration speeches as well. Policy making can be made more effective. To be very particular, Quality Assurance Council would be able to design effective quality assurance system enforcement mechanisms. Universities as implementing agencies can reflect back and channel their resources to meaningful ways of executing quality assurance system. Policies, procedures, practices, and the impacts, outcome of the policy can be effectively linked. I believe this is an eye-opener for the policymakers as well as implementers. Theoretically, I will be contributing to the institutional studies by producing actor morality to analyze institutional behavior. Methodologically, I will be contributing to the critical realism methodological principles because empirical studies are scant, and I will add rigor to the qualitative research methodology. Empirically, this will be a new way of looking at quality assurance system and symbolic compliance in the higher education sector. I will develop collaborations with the Quality Assurance Council of the University Grants Commission, which is essential, and I have already developed contacts and participated in some review meetings as well, and the conferences especially. Ethics, this consists of sensitive information, so anonymity will be strictly protected. Target journals, Journal of Higher Education Policy and Management, Journal of Policy and Society. Being a developing country, during this pandemic, it is really important to use our resources effectively. Developed countries can learn their mistakes and go for a better, effective policy planning, policy making, and execution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Indulgoda. Our second contestant is Mr. Riyad Ismail, representing the Postgraduate Institute of Management, on the topic, investigating final year undergraduates' career self-management process during education to work transition. Investigating final year undergraduates' career self-management process during education to work transition, Mr. Riyad Ismail.
Yeah, that's it. This one. You can open from this one. This one. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, those joining in from Sri Lanka, and a very good afternoon to all those joining in from other countries. My name is Riyad Ismail. No, it's not. Yeah. Good morning, those joining in from Sri Lanka, and good afternoon to those joining in from Australia. Hello, my name is Riyad Ismail. The research area of mine is career decision making. In Sri Lanka, graduate unemployment is a big issue. It is reported that graduate unemployment is over 6 times the average unemployment rate of Sri Lanka. And also, due to the COVID, there is some. No, I didn't know. Is this one? Hello? 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 Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is reported that the graduate unemployment rate will actually go up. And even in the first world country like USA, there is more than 50% unemployment and underemployment. Who would have thought? Graduate unemployment doesn't only affect the graduate, it also affects the undergraduates. As when they see a bleak future for them, apart from doing their general academic activities at university, they also have to prepare in adaptive career behaviors and also find alternate careers and engage in them to better their chances in finding a successful career to engage in when they make the transition from education to work. Career research has found that when undergraduates face severe hardships, they actually rely on personal agency or individual determinants with cognitive, behavioral, and personality traits in order to make better career decisions. So my working title is Undergraduate's Dilemma, Investigating Individual Determinants, Career Self-Management when Faced with Career Uncertainty. The basic research question is, what are the individual determinants that undergraduates' career self-management process? I have selected 3 key papers. One is Length and Brown's Social Cognitive Career Model of Self-Management, which introduces the career self-management model and the empirical findings. This is the theoretical framework that I'll be using. Lechner et al. And Schoen and Heckhausen show how individual determinants influence career decision-making when faced with career uncertainty, and individual determinants that shape the transition from education to work. So what is the motivation and puzzle? Well, the motivation comes from my University of Colombo biological batch, where when I met them for my 20th anniversary reunion, I found that a majority of us have engaged in a career totally different to biological science. We have lawyers, accountants, bankers, you name it, we have it. We even have a fashion designer amongst us. How cool is that? And this is similar to a study done by the National Science Foundation that found that only 28% of science graduates are actually involved in a career related to science. This may be due to that there is above average career unemployment among science graduates, which is rated at around 30% in Sri Lanka. As today the team of the PIMARC is reflecting reality through research, let's look at the reality of the situation. When it comes to science graduates, a few of them, whilst being in university, would decide to follow a career in science. However, there is severe career uncertainty in science-related careers, as we saw, denoted by these very happy sharks. Therefore, a majority of science graduates, while they are doing their graduate work in science, also embark upon a longer journey to adapt themselves for lucrative careers, which they can engage in and find a suitable career when they go out of university. But sadly, there remain a few that actually struggle to make such adaptive career decisions and may drown in the sea of careers. And due to this career indecision, they may find that it's hard to get a job and remain unemployed or underemployed when they reach out of universities. Therefore, the puzzle I'm trying to solve is, why are some undergraduates able to make successful career decisions, whilst others find difficulty in the wake of career uncertainty? The idea, when we look at the career decision-making process, there are two influencers that help an undergraduate. One is the external influencers, that is the influence from the quality of education and the help and support that you get from your teachers, parents, and counselors, etc. This area is well researched and documented. However, the individual determinants, basically the individual's cognitive, behavioral, and personality factors also have a great impact on the career decision-making process. I will be focusing in this area, and I will be using the career self-management model of social cognitive career theory by Length and Brown in 2013. The principal hypothesis that I'll be studying is that individual determinants will influence undergraduates' career decision process. And I have selected the proposed conceptual model and added to the identified gaps by bringing in a new theory of career adaptability and two constructs of career engagement and proactive personality. Data will be collected from the final year undergraduates studying science from the state's universities of the Colombo district. And I have calculated the sample size using Cressy and Morgan's table, which is 750. I'll be using a random sampling method. And for qualitative, I have selected a sample of 30. And the study design will be a cross-sectional survey. Data validity is considered high as the population is identifiable, quantifiable, and accessible. The tools that I'll be using it's a mixed method of study, and the quantitative study instrument will be a self-administered questionnaire. For the qualitative study instrument, I'll be using a semi-structured interview guide, and data analysis for quantitative data will be by way of a multivariate analysis via structural equation modeling using the SPSS's AMOS module of software. The qualitative data, I'll be using a thematic analysis. The reliability and the validity of the findings are also high, as I'll be using culturally adapted and validated tools and triangulation. So what's new? I would be integrating relevant theories and construct to facilitate meta-theory building to bring rigor to the CSM model. And this is the first time this is done in Sri Lanka, and also the first time that it will be tested in a different culture where career uncertainty is very prevalent. And a mixed method, as I'm doing, has not been done to test the CSM model. So what? The findings will help develop and novel career counseling methods and also help the undergraduate understand and use their personal traits to make adaptive career decisions, and also help employers better understand the personal agentic factors that drive young employees to advance their careers. So the contribution. Apart from the theoretical and empirical contribution, which I will be enriching the existing theory and also testing it in a different culture, my main objective from my study is actually to help undergraduates understand and manage individual determinants that would influence their career decisions and also help them finally to make wise career choices and be successful in life. Not only their life, but as Sri Lanka spends the highest for science graduate training in Sri Lanka. And also the science graduate intake to universities is second to none. It is important that as a policy level, we understand what is the process that these individuals follow when there is career uncertainty, and then thereby put them and help them go into careers that also help themselves and add to the societal and country's wealth. Other consideration, collaboration to get data would be through the heads of faculties of science in the state universities. My targeted journal is the Journal of Vocational Behavior, which is an A-star ranked journal. I have also identified some limitations. As my study is a cross-sectional study, I will not have a cause and effect explanation. I have analyzed all the risks that can happen during my study and assessed them to be low or nil. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ismail. Our third contestant of today's morning will be Ms. Hiranya Disanayaka, representing the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, with a project titled Impact of COVID-19 on Corporate Sustainability in an Emerging Economy. Impact of COVID-19 on Corporate Sustainability in an Emerging Economy. Ms. Hiranya Disanayaka, contestant number 3.
Good morning, everyone. I am Hiranya Disanayaka, PhD candidate at University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. Today, I am presenting my research pitch template on COVID-19 impact on corporate sustainability, empirical evidence from an emerging economy. I organized my research presentation based on research pitch template. In 2019 December, COVID-19 has originated at China, Wuhan. Today, more than 250 million confirmed cases are reported in worldwide. In addition, more than 5 million deaths also reported. In this situation, COVID-19 impact all the individuals, organizations, and economies in all around the world. Therefore, my research question is, what is the impact of COVID-19 on corporate sustainability in an emerging economy? COVID-19 impact is not always negative. There are certain positive impacts on the environment. That is, there is a reduction of air pollution, reduction of materials pollution, reduction of noise pollution, reduction in water pollution. But on the other hand, there are certain specific issues such as increase in biomedical waste, increase in decrease in waste recycling also can be observed. This map also illustrates that COVID-19 has reduced the PM 2.5 levels in most crowded cities in the world due to the lockdowns. In addition, secondly, social sustainability issues also face all around the world. There is an increase in poverty, social protection decrease, malnutrition increase, unemployment rate increase, household violence increase, and the income distribution disparity also increase. Thirdly, economic sustainability also have unfavorable issues. According to the PwC 2021 crisis survey, hospitality sector, higher education sector, manufacturing sector significantly impacted by the COVID-19. In addition, there is a specific problem created in the COVID-19 period due to the isolation with the lockdowns and work from home situation. That is the anxiety level. According to the OECD survey, most of the world countries face this anxiety problem. In addition, according to the Bernji et al. 2021, fear of infection, existential crisis, loneliness, sense of guilt, perceived stigma also faced by the employees in the world. Therefore, PwC crisis survey suggests that 80% of organizations have considered the psychological needs of the employees in this period. In addition, World Health Organization also suggests that 90% of countries consider the psychological needs in their COVID response plan. Therefore, in this context, the organizational spirituality is important to reduce the anxiety, distress, and stress. Accordingly, this issue is really important in the world, but there is no research has considered the impact of COVID-19 on sustainability, including spirituality dimension. Therefore, I motivated to this study, and this is important for the regulators and firms. These are the key papers I selected for my study. First one, Sang et al. Study is selected because it is directly related to my area. But this study only considered the triple bottom line approach. Secondly, Savavi and Wahab study is selected because it defined the quadruple bottom line approach. Third one, So et al. Study is selected because this study explains how to construct corporate sustainability index. Accordingly, my research idea is to examine the impact of COVID-19 on sustainability by integrating the spirituality dimension. The main hypothesis of the study is there is a difference in corporate sustainability between pre and during COVID-19 period. This is the conceptual model proposed by me to my study. COVID-19 impact on corporate sustainability analyzed by using environmental, social, economic, and organizational spirituality aspects. These dimensions are selected by a systematic review of 200 papers. In addition, expert opinion survey. Next, I will explain about how the data will be selected. In my study, I select the data from the registered companies in Sri Lanka. In the first phase, quantitative data will be selected from the 400 companies in Sri Lanka using the proportional random sampling method. Initially, annual report data will be collected and the unavailable data will be collected through questionnaires. Questionnaire will be is prepared based on the questions under pre-COVID situation and the during COVID situation. At the end of the quantitative phase, qualitative data will be collected using the semi-structured interview. Next, I will explain how I achieve my objective. These are the tools I'm using for conducting my analysis. I have two phases in my research project. First phase is the quantitative phase. Quantitative phase, first, I will construct the corporate sustainability index by using OECD index construction methodology. Initially, principal component analysis will be conducted. Secondly, robustness and sensitivity analysis in four main situations. First one, weights according to the analytical hierarchical process method using expert survey. Second one, weights according to the factor loading. Third one, equal weighting. Fourth one, unweighting. At the end of this analysis, I will do the descriptive analysis comparing listed and unlisted companies as well as sector-wise comparison. Next, the main objective, COVID-19 impact on sustainability, is analyzed using the paired sample t-test analysis. At the end of the quantitative findings, the exceptional results and the extreme cases are observed through the qualitative data analysis. Thematic analysis will be used to do the analysis. And according to the Creswell 2018, I used the integration of quantitative findings and qualitative findings into the meaningful findings for the research community. What is the new on Mickey Mouse? There are three new things. First one, the COVID-19 impact on corporate sustainability is analyzed using the quadruple bottom line approach. Second one, COVID-19 impact on corporate sustainability analysis using the integrating Western philosophical principle plus Buddhist philosophical practices. Thirdly, COVID impact on sustainability is examined using the explanatory sequential method. Next, so what? This study will fill the theoretical and empirical gap because there's no research study consider the organizational spirituality dimension in the sustainability in the quantitative way. And then next, this study is important for the formulation of policies because organization can adopt these policies and then they can improve the sustainability of companies, industry, and country. And then best practices can be introduced by not only Sri Lanka, but also the world countries. And finally, we can attribute the sustainable development goals. Contribution. This is a first study considered the quadruple bottom line approach. And this study, COVID-19 impacted analyzed using the various scenarios using stakeholder theory and resource-based theory. And this study has methodological and practical contribution. These are the other considerations I hope to publish in high impact journals, and then I will consider the anonymity that is requirement. Thank you, everyone. I think we can improve spirituality in the organization, can improve the sustainability in the world.
Thank you very much, Ms. Disanayaka. The fourth contestant of this morning's proceedings will be Ms. NB Ratnayaka, Ms. Nishamani Ratnayaka, on the topic, role of individual cultural values and personal innovativeness in the adoption of digital banking. the role of individual cultural values and personal innovativeness in the adoption of digital banking. Contestant number 4, Ms. Nishamani Ratnayaka.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody who is joining with us today. I'm Nishamini Ratnayaka, and today I'm going to present my pitch. That is role of individual cultural values and personal innovativeness in the adoption of digital banking. So my basic research question is, what are the individual cultural values leading to the formation of different levels of personal innovativeness and how? In preparing my pitch, I have referred to 3 key papers. Basically, first one is from the experts and the gurus in the subject. That is, the first paper is basically foundation for the innovation diffusion theory. And the second paper is basically grounded by the trait theory, and it confirms that personal innovativeness as a trait. And also the third paper I have mentioned in the slide, basically it confirms that national cultural values is influencing the digital banking adoption. So let's move to talk about the motivation and puzzle for my research. So the research context is basically the digital banking. When talking about the digitalization of the banking, it's transforming traditional banking services and activities into a digital environment, basically. In this transition, all the actors in the ecosystem playing a significant role in this improvement or the development in the entire system, I would say. So when talking about the digital banking ecosystem, we need to focus on 4 aspects, and we need to see about the digital infrastructure, technological know-how of the banks, technology adoption in the markets and the vendors, merchants, and also finally about the consumers' digital literacy. So in about to see how this digital ecosystem and the expansion in the Sri Lankan context, I had to refer the information provided by the Economic and Social Statistics of Sri Lanka, Department of Census and Statistics of Sri Lanka, and also the information provided at the Payment Bulletin of Central Bank. So by looking at and analyzing all these information, as I mentioned in the slide, I could see and we can conclude that digital banking has a drastic improvement in the country over the last few years. So that we can conclude basically that there is a digital banking is highly available in the market for the consumers to use. But when we are talking about the digital banking adoption in practical sense, still we can see that there are so many transactions happening from the paper-based mechanisms. So I would say that it's more than 50% of the transactions are still paper-based. So even that is confirmed by the recent researches has been done in Sri Lankan context. So for an example, I would say that very recently market survey has been done by the central bank. They confirms that even the people have the digital banking tools, they are reluctant to use it. So why this is happening? That is the question basically, I would say. And there are so many researchers confirms that culture of the country is influencing the digital banking. However, there are limited studies confirming or discussing about how the cultural values of the person who is influencing the personal innovativeness. And because of that, I'm trying to understand how the cultural values of a person is trying to influence the personal innovativeness of a person. And because of that, how the Sri Lankans become either slower or faster in adopting their digital banking. So when it comes to the idea of my research, I would say in innovation diffusion theory, Rogers confirms that personal innovativeness is guiding a person's decision-making process when he is accepting or adopting any innovation. And also he says that in order to understand the categories of the personal innovativeness, we can basically focus on to understand, depending on how quickly one adopts the innovation, we can cluster them into different adopter categories. For an example, I would say that innovators, early adopters, early and late majority, or otherwise laggards. In the same concept, the personal innovativeness is discussed in the trait theory. It confirms that personal innovativeness as a trait, and also all these traits are getting influenced by the culture. However, coming back to the innovation diffusion theory, it doesn't much talk about, when they are talking about the personal innovativeness, they doesn't talk about the cultural influence to the personal innovativeness. So in my research, I'm trying to pitch that gap and talking about how these cultural values would be driving to different personal innovativeness levels. So when talk about the data, this is a qualitative study. So I'm focusing on the digital banking as my cases. I'm focusing to interview the Sri Lankan digital banking users. The age limit would be 25 years age or older. And I'm focusing to interview executives and all the management professions. So when it comes to the sampling method, I would select the purposive sampling mechanisms, and minimum of my cases would be 21 respondents. And I'm planning to take at least 7 cases for each personal innovativeness categories. And data would be collected through interviews, and for data validation process, I'm using the data triangulation. So there I will be basically would be doing additional interviews with the industry specialists. When talking about the tools that I'm going to use for my research, this is basically, I'm using the semi-structured interview guide. And first part of the discussion would be basically to understand the personal innovativeness levels of the respondents. So then after that, the discussion would be directing to uncover the hidden values. So there I'm using the philosophy of values presented by R.M. William in 1970. So he clearly explains, if you want to uncover the hidden values of the person, you need to study or observe the individual's choices. So there, in understanding the cultural values or uncover the cultural values of the person, I'm trying to understand why and how that person is choosing or not choosing the digital banking. So in analysis, I'm using the thematic analysis to analyze, identify, and report the themes within the data. Basically, all these discussions will get transcribed and raw data will be coded, and there will be categories coming up with the data. So when talking about what is new, so here in the Mickey Mouse diagram, you can see that I'm focusing on 3 aspects here: the innovation, that is digital banking, personal innovativeness levels, and also the individual cultural values. So when talk about what is new, there are so many studies that has been done in order to measure the correlation between the innovativeness and the cultural values. However, most of these studies are basically focused on the national cultural values they are talking about, or otherwise the country national innovativeness, or they are talking about the organizational innovativeness. However, there are very limited studies. I would say that qualitative studies would be done in a perspective of talking about how these persons' cultural values would be influencing or driving a person when he's categorizing into different personal innovativeness levels. So in my research, I'm basically trying to establish a theoretical link in between personal innovativeness and individual cultural values. So what? So this world moves towards the digitalization. So there are so many innovations are coming up in the market, but however, we need to ensure that all these innovations are fit into or compatible with the social actors' culture. So sometimes the social actor would be a country, or sometimes it would be a person, or otherwise it would be an organization. But however, if that any innovation does not compatible or fit into the culture of the social actor, that innovation would fail. So in my research, basically, the result of my research would help all the researchers, decision makers, and innovators to look at the innovativeness through culture. So then they will be understand and pitch the best innovation to the market. When talks about the contribution, obviously my contribution or the result of my research would be an extension for the Rogers innovation decision process, because they are talking about how this personal innovativeness becoming or acting like a prior condition for the innovation decision process. But it doesn't talk about how this cultural values play in that personal innovativeness. So I'm planning to present list of cultural values for each personal innovativeness levels. There we could see that how these cultural values would react differently or similarly in exhibiting different personal innovativeness levels of the people. So when you talk about the other consideration, I'm focusing on A-rated journal publications in the field of digital banking or otherwise culture and the innovations. If someone asks whether my study is realistic, I would say yes, because this has a strong theoretical foundation and it will give the theoretical contribution as well. So if I could talk about the risks of my study, I would say that there is a competitor risk because digital banking is very up-to-date and crowded research space. However, I have not seen any research in my selected gap. So I conclude my research as appropriate. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. An intriguing and exciting contest indeed so far. We have two more contestants for this event. However, a quick announcement. We will be conducting the People's Choice Award, where we will be picking based on your votes. You get a say as well, ladies and gentlemen, all of those who are joining us physically as well as virtually. Kindly visit the PIM website and you will find a link there where using which you can log in. And thereafter, you will be able to vote for your favorite presentation of this contest. The People's Choice will be made clear and it will be heard. Moving on, we have the fifth contestant of today, who is none other than Mr. Leslie Gunasekara, representing the Postgraduate Institute of Management. His topic will be on inequalities and sexuality, experience of LGBT employees in the garment industry in Sri Lanka, inequalities and sexuality, experiences of LGBT employees in the garment industry in Sri Lanka, Mr. Leslie Gunasekara.
Good morning. I'm Leslie. I'm also a PhD candidate at PIM. I'm here to present you my research entitled Inequalities and Sexuality, Experience of LGBT Employees in the Garment Industry in Sri Lanka. So imagine you are discriminated at the workplace for being heterosexual. I think this statement is strange and unfair. Then why people discriminate LGBT people at work because of their sexual orientation? So I'm interested in talking about sexual inequality at work. My basic research question with that is, do lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender employees experience inequality at the workplace due to the impact of organizational practices, processes, policies, structures, and relations. My extensive literature review support me to understand three key papers which are talking about LGBT studies. First, seminal work done by Acker. In Acker's paper, she talked about two feminist issues. She gave one answer for both issues, that is, inequality regime. Second, Herrick has conducted extensive research on prejudice against sexual minorities. In this article, Herrick introduced sexual prejudice. Third, work done by Gasillo and published in the prominent journal Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. We are talking about more LGBT related studies. In his article, he talks about being LGBT offers a unique perspective compared to heterosexual workers. Moving to my motivation.
Mic is muted. No, it's muted. Testing one. Okay, go ahead. Can I request the members who are physically present here to log off from Zoom if you are already logged in? We will, after this presentation, we will, for the benefit of the participants physically present as well as virtually, we will indicate how the voting can take place via Zoom for the people's choice. But until then, with due respect to the presenter, please do log off or disconnect your audio from your Zoom login if you have logged into Zoom from your device right now. Thank you very much.
So my motivation is coming from different areas. First, in the global workplace environment, as UN reported in 2019, 40% reported as workplace harassment related to LGBT community. When it's come to Sri Lanka, as Equal Ground reported in 2018, 57% bullied, discriminated, and harassed at the workplace for being LGBT. Moving ahead, homosexual individuals as a stigmatized group in the society are commonly subjected to disapproval, social exclusion, oppression, violence, harassment, and discrimination. Normally, LGBT rights considered through a cultural, ethical, or social lens. However, LGBT exclusion and inequality also an economic development issue. So while being at work, LGBT employees tend to be less satisfied and they feel marginalized when they're discriminated at the work. So as a HR professional who worked in garment factories in Sri Lanka for nearly 4 years, I have observed so many activities related to LGBT discrimination in the Sri Lankan context. So much research has done and conducted on LGBT workplace experience, but there is much left to be understood. In my extensive literature review, I found 2 areas where discrimination or the labor market discrimination can be happen. First, taste or distaste of employer. Second, profit maximization intention of employer. This may lead for the marginalization or discrimination or the finally workplace incivility. The intersectionality, the mutual reproduction of class, gender, and racial relations may reinforce LGBT inequality at work. With that, I came with my puzzle how the taste and profit maximization intention of employer intersects with class, gender, race, and sexuality to reproduce inequality through organizational practices, processes, policies, structures, and relations. So I came with my idea. I have 3 theoretical lenses in my idea. First, taste-based discrimination. LGBT community face disadvantage in the workplace due to the preference of employer, customer, and co-workers. This is the base of caste-based discrimination. So therefore, LGBT people are in out group because LGBT may not the preference of employer, customer, or co-workers. This create my first gap, how I can understand this behavior through social identity theory. The second gap also came through this, how this is going to link with workplace incivility. My second theoretical lens is statistical discrimination. Under that, employers assume that there is a systematic difference in competencies, aptitude, efficiency, work engagement, job stability, etc. between the LGBT and heterosexual workers. Then discrepancies in job results can occur. This creates my third gap. The ideal worker norm expect employees to have masculine standards. My third theoretical lens is inequality regime. The inequality regime has identified how class, gender, and racial relations mutually reproduce inequality. However, for the inequality regime, sexuality has not been considered. So this creates my fourth gap, how we can see sexuality under intersectionality. So I will collect data from 3 garment factories in Sri Lanka where substantial density of LGBT workforce is available. I will conduct semi-structured, in-depth interviews with LGBT employees, organizational policymakers, HR practitioners, and heterosexual co-workers for my data collection. Moving ahead with tools, I will use interview guide for my data collection, and data will be coded, and I will use thematical analysis for my data analysis, and NVivo 12 will be used as the software as appropriate for the data analysis. So interesting question, what's new? First, this conceptualize how the taste or distaste of employer reproduces inequality in relation to LGBT employees at the workplace. Second, this conceptualize how employer reproduce inequality in relation to LGBT employees due to his or her intention to maximize profit. Third, this empirically validate how intersectionality occur, the mutual reproduction of class, gender, racial, and sexual inequality. So what? Previous scholars have focused mainly on how LGBT employees face difficulties in work setup. There are more to go. LGBT inclusion means business. It has estimated that the global LGBT population is nearly 483 million. What will happen if we exclude them from our business? So this study will reveal significant managerial implication for human resource practitioners on inclusion of LGBT community into business for better results. So my contribution, I have 2 contributions, unique contribution to the theory. This expand the concept of inequality regime and knowledge of in-group and out-group behavior in relation to sexuality. Third, how sexuality become a disqualifier to be a preferred or ideal employee in the work organizations. My second contribution, LGBT inclusion means business. Again, this will reveal many new ways of working for practitioners to practice in their work organizations to create an inclusive workplace for LGBT employees. So I have a few other considerations under that. In the ethical considerations are very important. In the Sri Lankan context, LGBT rights have legislative constraint. So I will have ethical clearance when I'm collecting data from the participants, and also I will take approvals from the case organization. The strict confidentiality will be maintained in my study throughout. So finally, this kind of research will contribute to the world to create a free and equal world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gunasekara. Once again, a reminder regarding the People's Choice Award. So the esteemed panel of judges have decided that we do need a minimum number of participants who are participating in this poll, and hence set it at 50 participants. So especially this message goes out to those who are joining us via Facebook Live. The link to this Zoom link or the Zoom meeting is shared and pinned on the FB Live broadcast of this event. So what you need to do, and this is once again only for those who are joining via Facebook, others who are already in the Zoom meeting, you can anyway participate in the poll when we open it up after the sixth presenter. And you are able to click that link on the Facebook Live feed, join the Zoom link. In fact, you will be brought here, and you can then join the Zoom link, join the Zoom meeting via the link. And there it is. As you can see, the link to the Zoom meeting is already shared. There you are, quite clear. And once you join it, once we open the poll after the sixth presenter, you will be having a total time of close to about 4 minutes to vote and make your decision regarding the People's Choice Award. But of course, we do require a minimum of at least 50 participants to make it fair and just for all the participants, and to have an adequate representation in that voting. Thank you very much. Our final contestant for this afternoon's proceedings would be Miss S.M. Anuruddhika Gayatri Senaviratna, representing the Postgraduate Institute of Management, on the title Professional Ideology as a Performance Determinant Factor, a Perspective of Sri Lankan Judiciary and Laws Delays. Pertinent topic indeed. Professional Ideology as a Performance Determinant Factor, a Perspective of Sri Lankan Judiciary and Laws Delays. Ms. S.M. Anuruddhika Gayatri Senaviratna.
Very good afternoon to everybody. I'm Anuruddhika Senaviratna. Title of my research is Professional Ideology as a Performance Determinant Factor, a Perspective of Sri Lankan Judiciary and Law Delays. So before stepping into my presentation, let me ask a simple question from the audience. When you hear the word delay, what comes into your mind? Inefficiency, ineffectiveness, waste of time and money, tension, etc., etc. Am I right? Yes. So if I say something in your life going to be on hold for 10 to 15 years with a delay, how do you feel? Obviously, serious emotional damage and economic loss, not only for you, but for your family as well as the society. So sadly, that is the truth of laws delays. Just touch. All right. Okay, thanks. Right. So in Sri Lanka, approximately 725,000 individuals and families suffer due to loss delays. Because of that, there's low trust and poor public perception towards the domestic judiciary. This national issue became an international issue when the Special Rapporteur on the Independence of Judges and Lawyers in Sri Lanka taken this matter before United Nations General Assembly Council in 2017. So is it only for Sri Lanka? Oh no. In India, approximately around 30 individuals and families annually suffer due to this problem. However, law delays, it's not a new thing. It's an issue old as the law itself. And it is a common issue for all jurisdictions, despite their development level in different momentums. However, the actual cause for law delays is not yet identified. So if the problem is old as the law itself, what they have done up to now? Many countries have made many attempts, such as integration and enhancement of information technology, improvement of infrastructure, increase in the courthouses, judges, support staff, and they verify the support of the bar. They examine how selection and promotion mechanism of the judges. They examine the judges' accountability and their qualification, experience, training, etc., etc. But none of these factors were able to rectify this issue. However, prior empirical studies have shown that increasing the number of judges in courthouses not going to result expedition of cases. Why? Because judges going to adjust their number of cases that they expedite in order to maintain the same productivity level. Further, according to the previous literature, they have established there's a serious service quality perception gaps between judges and the litigants. Also, they have affirmed role of judges have a greater say in the performance of the court. And the latest study in 2021 revealed that assessment of judicial ideology is a very prospective area for future research to understand this law's delay. So what is my study all about? The idea in a nutshell, we all know profession ought to deliver speedy and quality service. However, professions have emerged as a new form of human capitalism in the modern society. And judges were treated as a very elite and special group of professions in the society. However, the performance of the judiciary going to mainly depend on their performance. And these judges were vested with much power, discretion to influence the life of a litigant, either way taken by their property, liberty, and even some jurisdictions' life. So this judge has wide power and discretion to expedite or delay any matter that comes before him or her. Therefore, judges' professional ideology plays a very critical and decisive role in the law's dealing. According to Bourdieu, in the judiciary process, persons and events transform into verbal objects based on legal categories and rational reasoning. Therefore, he says this transformation enables judge to dominate any individual event or element effortlessly compared to the physical domination. He says, therefore, court case is an abstract representation of some form of a social construction with wide array of dominations. However, by and large, this role of legal ideologies in construction and deconstruction of culture is not yet properly studied. So based on that background, I'm raising my research question as, does professional ideology of judges act as a performance determinant factor of Sri Lankan law delays? Why I choose Sri Lanka as ideal research for this study? Because based on my primary data collection from 2012 to 2017, it evident approximately there are 725 annual case backlog in Sri Lanka. Further, comparative to other jurisdictions, Sri Lankan judiciary context have a minimal effect of other ideological factors such as ethnic, caste, gender issues. So it provides ideal research context to accurately measure professional ideology of judges. This is a qualitative study in the critical domain. So my population will be the entire Sri Lankan judiciary, and unit of analysis is or ideograph is the judge. And I'm planning to collect data through multiple sources, primarily through interviews and questionnaires. And I'm planning to have a data triangulation. And these findings will be further supplemented with field observations and artifacts. In the critical theories belief, there are multiple realities exist. And the knowledge is highly subjective due to varying interest and the nature of individuals. And this critical theory raises what is taken for granted in culture as in the interest of social justice, especially in the interest of oppressed groups. And ideology critique is denaturalizing these mythical ideologies, what is taken as a natural way of life or what we refer as the common sense. In order to unmask this ideology critique raises two fundamental questions. That is, why it is being made and in whose interest it is being made. So that's why I'm using this tool to demystify the belief that law delays are inherent feature of the legal system in order to ensure the quality of legal outcomes, or to find out whether the real reason is professional ideology of judges. So what? Yes. History shows enough and more evidence that ideology have very critical repercussions. When I turn to professional ideology, it can act as a performance determinant factor, not only for the judiciary, but for other professions as well as the occupants. In modern days, there's a high scale of professionals and occupational employees in modern organizations. So it is important to recognize this factor in their recruitment, selection, promotion, and performance measures. Also, it becomes a vital factor in collective bargaining and unions. Therefore, effective management of this professional ideology becomes very critical in order to promote and reach ideal professional behaviors and outcomes. So what's new? Yes. My study explores whether professional ideology acts as a performance determinant factor for Sri Lankan judges and whether it's result in law delays. If it's so, yes, then we can treat this professional ideology as a new element to be added to the future performance evaluation measures. Also, this study investigates how professional ideology forms a performance gap between ideal and actual professional outcomes and how it results client dissatisfaction. Further, this study examines how dominant professional ideology able to suppress professional ideology and how it causes tension within and among dominant and subservient groups in the same profession. So my main contribution will be, this study is exploring professional ideology as a performance determinant factor for judges. And in future studies, they'll be able to test and generalize this novel factor for other profession and occupation. Also, this study trying to reflect the impact of professional ideology on clients, professionals themselves, professional associations, and the broader society. Also, this study will be dissecting the main elements of professional ideology into three main areas, as class ideology, institutional ideology, and subjective legal ideology, and their respective roles. By that, this study trying to extend the prevailing advanced capitalist class structure theories by explaining how modern professions were able to form a dominant and distinct social class in society through their professional ideology and how they are trying to maintain these professional capitalists. And this study used this ideology critique for the first time as a management and a legal tool. What's more, yes, usually the classical belief is that professional and client relationships are ideally based on the fiduciary duty. However, this study indicates that actual judge-subaltern litigant relationship based on the fiduciary power instead of the fiduciary duty. Therefore, we can make an assumption in general, professional client relationship is based on the fiduciary power, where the client is voluntarily submitted to the professional's domination and exploitation of the profession. So this study stresses the necessity of striking a balance between the self-interest of the members of profession and their ethical obligation to comply with professional ideas and conduct for the self-regulation in society to overcome power disparity between them and the public. So basically, this is one reality I'm trying to reflect through my research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Senaviratna. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the National Pitching Research Competition 2021. Let's give a physical and virtual round of applause for our contestants. Well done. Now, the poll has also been launched for the People's Choice Award for this contest. As you can see, we do have it's a single choice poll. And ladies and gentlemen, we have listed out all the unique pictures that were presented to us today. And as the People's choice is being marked, is being presented? Let's find out. There will be a total of 3 to 4 minutes allocated for this poll. The technical team, if we could just minimize the poll just for, all right, thank you very much. Thank you. Now, what an exciting contest that was, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, some of the more novel, the unique, the modern business ideas, the ideologies, the research problems that were shared are truly thought-provoking, ones that need answers for and needs answers quickly. And we should appreciate, despite busy schedules as academics, as working professionals, the time that these contestants have devoted. And while congratulating them on the journey so far, and yes, this being a contest, there will be a winner. And like what we call it in academics, none of them will be a loser this morning or this afternoon. All of them are winners for the journey they have come so far. It's just that by virtue and nature of a contest, there's always somebody who wins a little bit more than the others. But having said that, congratulations indeed to all our contestants who participated in this event. Now, it's time to hear from a veteran, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and that would be the chair of this event. Now, while they do finalize the proceedings and the final results, let's focus the attention towards the screen for 2 special videos that we have to share with you today. On the event that is taking place. Dialogue planned out for tomorrow. What a power-packed evening that will be, ladies and gentlemen. A quick reminder that the industry dialogue of the PIM Annual Research Conference 2021 will be held tomorrow. And as you saw, it's going to be a star-studded team and a panel discussing not just industry ideas, but amalgamating the industry thinking together with new research findings to empower and boost your journey as an industry professional or as an academic. Now, to hear from a veteran in the field of industrial or rather pitching research competition, I would now like to invite the chair of today's judging panel, who is none other than Professor Robert Pfaff, to share his ideas on the 6 contestants and how the pitching research competition was carried out today. Professor Robert Pfaff, I believe you are there with us, sir. Can we please have Professor Pfaff highlighted?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much to the 6 finalists. Everyone did a fantastic job. So I think I'd just like to make a range of general comments, and then it depends. I think we're already sort of running short of time, so there will not be much opportunity to give specialized comments to the finalists. I think everyone did a fabulous job in terms of what I think about in terms of the golden rules, and the 5 golden rules that I think Vasantha reminded us of at the beginning have been executed fabulously well by the finalists. So these golden rules are clarity. I think everyone did a great job in clearly explaining their research, and I should mention, and it was highlighted by Vasantha that, in fact, it was highlighted by our Master of Ceremonies, I believe, as well, that we needed the finalists and the pitchers to assume that they are communicating to a field expert. And this is critically important. It does, in some instances, make an event like this more challenging for the audience, because the advice to the pitchers is to assume a field expert, and the audience will have varied backgrounds. So if it's a very technical area, then it can become difficult, and the clarity issue will be somewhat of a challenge. Now, I think we are very fortunate today that all of the topics, while the pitchers definitely pitch to a field expert, because the topics were quite practical in their focus, it allowed a general audience to tune in very well. So it served a multiple purpose here, which I'm very pleased about, and certainly to my mind, everyone did very well in terms of clarity. The second golden rule is to portray a meaningful pitch, and I think while there was some variation there, everyone did a great job in terms of meaningfulness. The third golden rule is that it's clear a big effort has been exercised, and again, congratulations to all, because I think it was clear a very good effort had been expended. The fourth golden rule is around connectivity. So what I'm really looking for here, and what the judges were looking for, and what the assessors were looking for, that not only are there good answers individually for each of the 11 items, but when you look at the totality of the 11 items in the collection, everything's connected. And again, I think all the finalists are in the final, not only for the reasons of clarity, meaningfulness, effort, but also the degree of connectivity. And then the fifth golden rule is that we want to start a conversation. So while we do the best we can in terms of communicating our idea to an expert, the real measure of success is, will it start a conversation? So as the audience is concerned, we have to really imagine that situation, because the event today is one directional. So there's no opportunity to test that communication and the degree of conversation. So what we need to do is imagine how well a conversation would start. And given my deep experience of this framework, let me confirm to all within the audience that in each case for the 6 finalists, they would meet this golden rule very strongly, that if you would imagine a situation where they're having a meeting with their supervisor and they were to use this material as the basis of their meeting, it would definitely start a conversation. The supervisor would have many areas of questioning and commentary induced by this framework. And that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's not aiming to create a perfect pitch, but the quality of these pitches was very high. The measure of success in the end, does it start a conversation? And I can resoundingly say for all cases, this has been achieved. Now, the other thing we need to remind ourselves today is there's 2 important levels of communication that come from this framework. And really today's event very much focuses only on one of those, and that's the oral communication. So underlying all of these finalists are very high quality written pitches. And what those written pitches do is bring home the important goal of communicating in a written form. Now that communication in a written form then allows a quality communication orally, which in every situation of a PhD student, of a research student, is absolutely fundamental. They will get their feedback not only in written form, but they will get feedback in an oral form. But the written is an important foundation stone for that. So what I was very pleased to see was, in terms of the oral pitches, in all cases, the finalists were very faithful to the pitching research framework. And to me, this is super important. I have the greatest confidence that each of today's finalists could have given a somewhat different presentation where maybe it would be very difficult to evidence the use of the framework. But of course, they didn't do that. And I think this helps to draw attention to the value that this systematic framework can give, because as audience members, particularly as we see that same pattern repeat over and over again, while it might get us, lull us into a sense of repetition, because we have a different topic being presented each time, we get the benefit of anticipating the structure of the information presented to us. And this is super important, because in a real setting where we would have feedback and communication, this can make a short amount of time become very efficient, very effective, and very valuable, not only to the research student, but also to their supervisor and to their mentor. Now, what is also worthy of note in all of the finalists is something very common to them. And I'm not surprised by this, but I want to draw attention to it and then make a comment about it. And something that is common to all of them is that the chosen setting of the research, even though the topics vary quite amazingly and give us that diversity, they all choose Sri Lanka as their setting. And this doesn't surprise me, not for a second. I would have been surprised if some had not chosen Sri Lanka as a setting. So what is my comment about this? Well, what it challenges each of you to think about, and I think you all, to some extent, went down this path in your oral presentation, but I'd encourage you to do this even more, is that you need to be ambitious about engaging an international audience. I think this is important. We shouldn't underestimate the importance of doing good research in our own setting, in our own country, in this case, Sri Lanka, and getting a strong, positive reception to that and engaging with the local community. But as PhD researchers, we should take the opportunity and the challenge to ask ourselves, why and in what ways will an international research community be persuaded that the choice of my country, and we should be proud of our country, so please don't misinterpret what I'm saying, and I see that pride and that belief in your country as providing a valid setting for research, no question. But we need to challenge ourselves to say, in a meaningful way, how can we convince an international audience, an international research community, to buy into or be persuaded that in some level of relevance, the choice of this setting goes beyond one that is just parochial, that is beyond one that goes to the heart of a research question for which your chosen setting can give answers that transcend the national boundary. And for many of this, it's not easy. But I really do encourage each of the finalists, and I know and as I've said, it's not to say you didn't try this, but you need to continue to work hard at this, because if you succeed in doing this, you will find a greater engagement with an international community. You will be able to find a good home, a good journal, a good outcome, a good publication for your work that is not just limited to local eyes and local minds. It's not going to restrict or prevent the local eyes and the local minds from reading it, but the world is your oyster. And this is the supreme challenge of all researchers, and particularly it's one that PhD researchers need to embrace. So the final thing that I'd mention is that, and I guess I've already slightly mentioned it, but I want to praise all of the finalists for embracing topics that have a very, in the end, somewhere and somehow have a practical side to them, a practical dimension that they are passionate about the question. And as I said in my keynote, this is super important. Be passionate about the question, and then let the data with appropriate methods lead us to the real answer. And that practical flavor comes through very strongly, and it's one that's very in tune with the future world of research, which I sort of tried to flag to a great degree in my keynote, which is responsible science. So the foundation stone of good scholarly research is that rigor, is the desire to give us once we've identified a research question, to give a reliable answer, a rigorous and reliable answer to that question. If we can choose topics that go beyond that and have a practical angle to them, that reach out to beyond the the academic community, beyond beyond academia, that we learn something that would be deemed useful to non-academics. That is more than a bonus. That's really going to be an imperative for much research going forward. And I see that in each of the finalists. So congratulations to you. As our Master of Ceremonies has said, you are all winners, but the nature of a competition requires us to identify along the lines of the golden rules and the assessment some particular winners in terms of that. But I do congratulate you all before we actually come to the announcement of those three winners. And I'm not sure whether we're at that point now where I need to make that announcement. I really need some guidance from the Master of Ceremonies or Wasantha or somebody in authority.
Thank you very much, Professor Pfaff. I would now also like to hand over the forum to one of the country coordinators for this National Pitching Research Competition, Professor Atula Manamaduge, to share some of his thoughts as well briefly.
Thank you, Tarindu. Thank you. I mean, as Professor Vasantha highlighted from the introductory remark, I mean, this is the first time we are organizing this at the HDR level. Actually, it's according to my understanding, it's a very successful one. As Professor Robert highlighted, I mean, it is very closely contested competition. I'm sure, I mean, shortly we are going to announce the finalists, final winner. And hopefully, I think PIM will, continue this kind of, competition in future also. That is very useful for our HDR, the student, is to conceptualize their research and communicate their research to the experts effectively. Okay, right. Thank you very much, Tarindu. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Atula Manamaduge. Now, I know everyone is awaiting the results. Indeed, the contestants, the supporters, the participants, everyone. Well, it has been finalized. That's the update, and soon we shall be making the announcement. Meanwhile, a quick refreshment regarding the upcoming events of the PIM Annual Research Conference. Well, after this national pitching research competition is done, we shall be moving on to 3 parallel tracks. We have the doctoral colloquium, and coordinated by Dr. Sakuntala Dureratnam, that will be taking place in the Vision Hall. I'm mentioning the physical location for the benefit of those who are participating physically. And we have the research session 1 that is dedicated towards organizational behavior, and that track will be coordinated by a veteran in the field of research, an absolute asset to PIM, Dr. A.K.L. Jayawardena, and that would be in the Vidya Hall. And we have the research session 2 taking place, dedicated towards operations management, once again coordinated by Dr. A.K.L. Jayawardena. That would be taking place in the Mirror Hall. And once those 3 parallel tracks are completed, ladies and gentlemen, by tomorrow evening, we shall be commencing the industrial dialogue, which is dedicated towards discussing multiple different disciplines pertinent to the current economic and business landscape of Sri Lanka, an ideal mix of business acumen together with new research findings. Intriguing indeed. Please do bear with us for a few more minutes until we finalize the results. I can feel the tension, I can feel the excitement. It's always a good thing to be excited in a good way about something. I know the past few weeks we have been made to be excited about various things, such as commodity prices, utility prices, but this is a good thing to be excited about. Once again, a quick reminder on our events coming up. After the lunch break, we shall be having the doctoral colloquium and research session 1, research session 2. Research session 1 will be dedicated towards organizational behavior, while research session 2 will be dedicated towards operations management. I would now like to announce the results of the People's Choice Award and to hand over that token to the winner of the People's Choice Award. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. And to announce that result, we will take a little bit more time. Once again, the excitement is building up. It's time to hear from, once again, one of the forces that has truly been supportive of making this event a success, and that is none other than Professor Vasantha Pereira. Professor, over to you for your comments regarding the pitching research competition.
Thank you, Tarindu, and thank you very much, Professor Robert. You led the team panel, and you did a hard work, and you analyzed all the pitches. These are the PhD students in Sri Lanka. So one thing you clearly mentioned, even though you do the research in the local context, we should communicate with the international audience. That is most important thing. Short while ago, I received the outcomes from the chair of the evaluation panel. I think once I move into their results, I thought that this competition is very tough. So only the marginal differences between the first place, second place, and the third place. So without taking much time, I'm straight away move into the result. I know that you are waiting for who is going to be the winner. The panel has selected ultimately 3 pitchers. The investigating final year undergraduate career self-management process during the education to the work transition done by Riyad Ismail. And another pitchers they considered for the final stage, a symbolic compliances towards quality assurance system in higher education, a moral outlook. And the remaining one is that was done by Chani Vas Imbulgoda. And the third one is the impact of COVID-19 on corporate sustainability in an emerging economy, done by Ms. Hiranya Disanayake. Out of these 3 topics, I'll first announce the second runner-up. Out of these 2, the second runner-up is Ms. Hiranya Disanayake, the impact of COVID-19 on corporate sustainability in an emerging economy. And the first runner-up out of these 2, now I'll go to the winner, not the first runner-up. I straight away go to the winner. The winner of this inaugural National Pitching Research Competition is Mr. Riyad Ismail. He focused on the investigating final year undergraduate career self-management process during education to the work transition. Well done, Riyad. You had done a great job, and your pitch has assessed by all the panelists. I went through their marks and everything. So I think they admire your research. Basically what Professor Robert has said, what was the criteria they considered. And the second runner-up, the remaining one, the symbolic compliance toward the quality assurance system in higher education, a moral outlook, done by Chani Vas Imbulgoda. Well done, Chani. You did a great job. So that's my things, I think, my point of view. So once again, I should thanks to Professor Robert and the team. They did a very hard job and finding, I don't know how they selected. So everything was very clear. They sent me the Excel sheet, how they allocate the mark, even listening to the presentations as well as speeches. And thank you very much, Professor Robert, for your hard work and your team.
Thank you very much, Professor Vasanta Pereira. And indeed, the verdict is out, the judge's verdict is out. And before we move on to the presentations, I shall pick up from where I left earlier. Announcement of the People's Choice winner, People's Choice Award winner, based on the poll we conducted via Zoom at the end of all 6 presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, to hand over this token of appreciation, or rather this token of the winner's token for the People's Choice Award, I would now like to invite the following members from the PIM. I would like to invite Dr. Travis Pereira, Dr. Samantha Ratnayaka, Dr. Gayan Jayakodi. Gentlemen, if I may please have you right in front to hand over the People's Choice winner. We do have a little award for the People's Choice poll winner. Based on the voting of participants who participated in this poll conducted via Zoom, at the end of all 6 presentations, the winner of the People's Choice Award goes to Miss all right. The award goes to Miss Hiranya Disanayaka. Thank you, gentlemen, and congratulations, Hiranya. To hand over the certificates of participation and presentation, as well as to hand over the certificates for the winners, I would now like to invite for the presentation ceremony the Director of the Postgraduate Institute of Management, Dr. W.J.S. Kalum, Conference Co-Chair, Professor Ajanta Dharmasiri, and Conference Co-Chair, Dr. Nilakshi Galahitya. May we have NDNB Ratnayaka. Ladies and gentlemen, please do keep the applause going. Mr. Leslie Gunasekara. SM Anuruddhika Gayatri Senaviratna. Congratulations, everyone. Once again, do keep the applause going. May we have the second runner-up of the National Pitching Research Competition 2021, Ms. Hiranya Disanayaka. first runner-up of the National Pitching Research Competition 2021, Ms. Chani Vasana Ibulgoda. And the winner, as we all know, the winner of the National Pitching Research Competition 2021 for the project title, Investigating Final Year Undergraduates' Career Self-Management Process During Education to Work Transition, Mr. Riyad Ismail. Thank you very much, esteemed panel, for your participation. And while thanking our international panel of judges who participated in the judging process for the National Pitching Research Competition, and to all of those who joined us online and who are physically present here today, with that, we conclude the National Pitching Research Competition. However, we would now like to hand over the forum just for a quick 2-minute brief from the winner to share his thoughts. We would like to hear from the winner. It's a different feeling when you're presenting. I'm quite sure it's a different feeling now that you know you're over the hurdle. Riyad Ismail, representing the Postgraduate Institute of Management.
Well, I have to say I didn't expect that. And I'm very proud of, more than myself, I'm very proud of the PIM for nurturing me every day. I know Dr. Nilakshi has been, emailing me and asking me how is it going and all of that. So I thank, and my victory is due to my institution. And I really would like to say that with my heart. And I would like to also, congratulate my other 5 finalists. It's nerve-wracking to come up here and speak to an audience as such as eminent as yourselves and the pitch doctor himself on his template. So I also would especially like to thank Professor Frapp and also Professor Vasanta Pereira and Professor Manavadu, who has been painstakingly coming online in the night to coach us. And I would like to thank my supervisors, Professor Ajanta and Dr. Nilakshi. Thank you very much for all the support for my PhD. So, it's been a great experience for me, and I thank you very much. Thanks.
Congratulations once again, Mr. Riyad Ismail. With that, we shall head for the lunch break, and we will see you sharp at 1:30 p.m. with the 3 parallel tracks of the doctoral colloquium, the research session 1 and research session 2. Thank you very much, and I will see you exactly at 1:30.